Hello everyone, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. So today I'm going to give you an update on week 2 of the Snowalong. So this is a sew-along for the snowflake pattern by Modern Handcraft. It's a dual sew-along actually, because if you were doing the snowflake pattern, there's some of us doing the snowflake pattern, and she has another pattern called asterisk. And some people are doing that particular pattern, and some people are doing both. I am doing the snowflake pattern because this is a pattern that I've wanted to make for quite some time. I still, I haven't reprinted this, but you can see the way this original quilt is. It's actually 4 colors, right? And then you have your large snowflake. So you can do that. You can do the quilt that way with the 4 colors, or you can make your snowflake one color and you can make your background all one color, or you can choose to make your snowflake scrappy and make your background scrappy, or you can make your snowflake one color and your background scrappy. There's options here. Now, I will say that if you are doing the quilt where you just have one color for your background and one color for your snowflake, or even if you do the 4 colors, the construction of those quilts is super easy because you're dealing with a lot of large blocks. So it's a lot less piecing. If you're doing scrappy, then your quilt is completely made up of squares. And so you have to cut and piece a lot of squares. So I was doing scrappy, so I cut out everything for scrappy. The piece that I realized that I missed in regard to this pattern is that my snowflake itself is not scrappy. So I did not have to follow the scrappy cutting instructions for the snowflake itself. I could have just followed the one color snowflake cutting instructions, which has larger pieces, so there's less squares to piece. So today I actually went back and recut my background fabric. So instead of having a bunch of squares, I still have squares, but I also have these larger pieces. Another thing that I did, I read her blog, and she said that one of the things that she did was that she went and she put all of her pieces into bags, right? So she separated everything so that she would have an equal amount of prints and color balance for each block. So I went ahead and did that too. So each of my blocks is in a little baggie. Now I did this before I went back and cut the larger pieces. So I'm going to have to get bigger bags. Or no, I'll probably just use a clip. So for some of the, because I clipped them in because they go together. These 3 blocks get sewn together in 1 week of the sew along. So I have them clipped together. So what I'll probably have to go back and do is find the months where instead of these background squares, I have some of these larger pieces, and I'll have to go back and do that and just match them up. I don't have to, but it just makes it easier because it was super easy to sew my blocks together today. And this quilt goes together so quickly because it's literally squares. Even if you're doing the scrappy version, which takes a little bit longer, it's all squares. So today I was able to do blocks 6, 7, and 8. It goes together so easy. I took some pictures of when I was constructing it. I'm not showing any sewing for this particular sew along, just because it's literally sewing squares together, and I'm not really sure that there's a lot of value in showing you that, So this is how I kind of laid it out. I kind of looked at the instructions, and I just laid the entire block out on my sewing table next to me, and then I just started sewing everything together, and that's kind of how I did my blocks. So I'm going to show you my blocks. We have blocks 6, 7, and 8. I love how it's coming together. So here's block 6, and you can see this navy, that's my snowflake fabric. So this is block 6. It was great today to actually be able to see some of that snowflake taking place and to make sure that I was going to like the contrast. This is block 7. You can really start seeing that that snowflake come out, and I'm loving how this looks. And here we have block 8. So my 3 blocks are done for the week. Everything is kitted up and ready to go for next week. So it just makes it a really fast sew. I think I got these 2 blocks done in a couple of hours. So even if you did have to split it up, it's not a large time commitment to do this quilt or to do this sew along. So I'm liking that. And so one thing I do need to correct, and I think the last time I did an update on this video, on this sew along, I had the issue with my sound. So there was something that you guys didn't get to hear, and most of it was me just rambling. But there was one good bit of information, because I had specifically said that I was not going to press my seams open, because I was like, well, I don't see the need to press my seams open. It should be fine. But it's not. So I'm pressing my seams open for these, because eventually these blocks have to go together. And if well, not these specific blocks, you know what I mean, but eventually the blocks are going to have to go together. And if the seams are pressed to either side, there's no way it's going to match up. The only way it's going to match up is that you'd have to look at the diagram for each block and be like, okay, these are the blocks that are going to be near it, and I press these blocks that way so I can press these blocks. I didn't want to do all that. That was going to be super complicated. And so what was going to end up happening is I was just going to have to work with the seams as I went. And I was like, you know what? No, these go together pretty quickly. They're going to go together even faster now that I've cut the larger pieces, because that's the squares that I need to put together, I mean. And so, yeah, I do recommend pressing the seams open. I did not press my half square triangles open, and there are some areas that have some bulk where the half square triangles are, but I don't really care about that. For me, that bulk is not significant, and I don't care about it. So yeah, but I am pressing the seams open. That has been working well. For the most part, when I'm sewing these squares together, I don't really care about matching the seams. So like when we have like our background squares coming together here, it's not exactly perfect. There's some other areas where it's a bit more off, maybe on some other blocks. But when I was putting the actual snowflake pieces together, I did pin and make sure that I hit my marks on those spaces, because that's going to define the shape of my snowflake. So like here, where these blocks come together, you know, that's defining my snowflake. So I want to make sure that that comes together really well. So I did do some pinning when I put this together, because basically what I did was I just sewed the rows together. I sewed each row and then sewed the rows together, just like making a little quilt. So that was how I did it. So I like I said, I really didn't care about the background squares, because I felt like the all over blue, nobody was going to notice that in a quilt. But that all over blue and the scrappiness of it, nobody was going to notice if those points are off. But the snowflake, I felt like that would be more noticeable if those points weren't accurate. So so I did try to get those mostly right. So like here, you know, I tried. I was a little bit off here, but not significantly, and not enough that it's noticeable. But I did do some pinning to try to make sure that I got those particular sections correct. So that's week 2. We've got, I don't think I have the list over here with me for the subsequent weeks, but I think it's just 3 blocks a week, right? Because week 1 you do 5 blocks, so that was a lot. Not a lot, but that was the week that had the most blocks. I think every other week only has 3 blocks in it. So is that right? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. Yeah, every other week only has 3 blocks. And I'm probably gonna start putting some blocks together as we move along, because literally, yeah, I'll probably start putting some together. Probably not this week or next week, but probably the week after that. Once we get to week 4, I'll probably start, maybe week 3, maybe next week, I might start putting some blocks together. There might be enough at that point. And not because I have to, or just because I want to be, extra advanced or an overachiever or anything. I'm just super excited to see this snowflake come together. I'm super excited to see this quilt come together. So yeah, I might jump ahead a little bit as far as piecing the blocks together. I don't plan to make my blocks early, but I might jump ahead a little bit in regard to piecing the blocks together into the quilt. So we're going to make 20 blocks total, and right now we have 8. So next week we'll have 11, and I think at 11 I can start putting some of this together. Yeah, I can't show you guys the diagram because I felt like that would give away too much of the quilt. But yeah, I think once I make the next 3 blocks, I can put together a good portion of the quilt. And since I'm also doing another sew along, I think it'll help me to kind of get a jump on this, because for me, as long as I stay up with, as long as I keep pace, I'm fine. But once I get behind, then I start to get a little bit of anxiety, and then I don't want to do it. So that's why it's day 1 and I've already got my block sewn and it's out of the way. And then I have the option, if I think I'm going to have a busy week next week, I have the option of jumping ahead and sewing my blocks on the weekend before Monday even comes. So that's kind of how I'm doing this. But again, I haven't had to do a whole lot. This one's pretty low, low effort, low time, low commitment. Like it's a great quilt and just super easy to put it together. So I really can't say enough about this pattern. Like if you want to make somebody a quilt for Christmas and it's November 1st, you can I'm telling you, if you do the 2-color one, where you have one background and one print snowflake, then like I said, you can literally cut this quilt out and piece it in a day. So, and it's a good size quilt. It's not like this is a baby quilt. It's 60 by 72. And you could literally probably have it basted, layered and basted, and quilted, a couple days after that. You could literally cut it, shop for the fabric, cut it, sew it, layer and baste it, quilt it in a weekend if you had to. So that's enough about me. That's enough of me rattling. I didn't really look at the pattern before I committed to doing it. That's kind of weird, right? So I didn't realize how easy this was going to go together. So I had done all of this prep work, all of this cutting, because I had, 3 different sew-alongs that I was participating in. So I had to get everything, like I got the jump on everything and did everything like super early as far as the prep work and the cutting. I got like all of it done early because I was thinking, oh my God, this is going to take so much time. And I still got other things to do and other things to work on and a job, so I didn't know, but it hasn't been like literally, I got these in a couple of hours. So, if you're looking for something to do, even if you don't do this particular snow along, you can always follow the schedule, but you can literally put the blocks together in a couple of hours. Last week took a little bit longer because we were doing 5 blocks. But this is actually a couple hours. So a couple hours a week. So if you ever want to do a sew along where all you need is a couple hours a week, 20 minutes a day, this is your sew along. I probably spent, at this point, I think I've spent more time doing the prep work than I have actually sewing on the project. Getting everything cut, because we don't need to go back into that, but I cut my quilt from a layer cake. So I had to do some crafty math, and then I'm a bit anal, so I had to count how many pieces I had of each print to make sure everything was balanced. I'm sickening. I'm really sickening when it comes to certain things. So that's it for me. We've got our blocks 6, 7, and 8. They are looking good. I'm super pleased with how this is turning out. I cannot wait to see the finished quilt. So I cannot wait until next week when we can do when I do the next 3 blocks, because once I do the next 3 blocks, I'll literally have, let's see, this entire portion of the quilt done. All of this will be done. Once I have those 3 blocks, all of that part of the quilt can be done. So I don't know that I'll put all of that together, but I think I'll start building my rows so you guys can kind of get a jump on that. I tend to do better when the pieces are smaller. You know, once we start putting rows together, I like making blocks, but putting the whole quilt together, like that's my favorite part. My favorite part would be piecing blocks. But then putting the blocks together into rows and sewing the rows together and having to pin and have these long rows, and then the pins are sticking me in my legs as I'm trying to feed the stuff into the machine, and then the quilt gets big and it gets heavy and it's hard to manage and that's when I'm like, do something else. So so that's why I want to kind of stay ahead of the game. So because I do plan to finish this quilt and get it layered, bound, and quilted for Christmas, before Christmas. So that's the goal, and I want to keep that goal. I'll probably do simple straight line quilting to keep it easy, maybe on the diagonal or something like that. I haven't figured it out yet, but I'm here for it. I'm ready. All right, so that's it for me. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you next video.